Welcome to Supercharged, the life and times of our son, Tim Brauch. Tim's skating was pure energy, coupled with a creative and effortless style. His promising career, however, was cut short when, on May 9th, 1999, at the age of 25, he died of sudden cardiac arrest. This is his story.
Things are looking bright, man. The future looks bright.
The minute Tim stepped on that skateboard, he was hooked.
He was just on a mission.
He turned pro before he even graduated from high school.
He said, I won! I won the World Cup, Mom!
Tim, he lived more in his years than most people live in their whole life.
Tim always stood out.
I mean, from the time he was a toddler, he just had this little six-pack. He was somebody that had so much balance and coordination, and he was just a natural athlete. He was a good football player, basketball player, whatever he played. He just did it full throttle and excelled.
Tim was addicted to the skateboard. That was pretty clear from the minute he stepped on it. It stemmed from our family's background. My dad was a surfer, toyed around on the skateboard when I was a little kid.
Well, my skateboarding began in high school back in the 60s. The concept of leaving the ground back then had not even been considered. I had a Fiberflex back in, I can't remember the year, but Tim was knee-high at the time, and he used to stand between my legs and skate along. He then took a step further and decided he'd take the Fiberflex by himself, and he would sit on it and zoom down the driveway, and then it progressed from there. I think the first boards we were buying, I guess they call them old school boards now, and that was probably the first board he actually had of his own.
Before the charge bill came in, we were getting him another one.
I was always envious of his parents. I think his dad was a hero figure. He saw something special in his son, and so did his mom, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna nurture that.
We used to build quarter ramps and put them at the bottom of the driveway or down on the street, and couldn't have been more than 9 years old, and he was coming off the end of the ramp, 4 foot in the air, dropping down onto the sidewalk. And that was amazing even then.
He was always on the move, and when he dropped his board, he picked it up, and he didn't quit. He just kind of hopped back on and went forward.
We'd walk up to a park, and we could spot him instantly when we wondered if Tim was there yet, because he'd be flying higher than anybody else in the park. We went to Derby quite often, and he would race down the snake, I guess they call it, down into the bowl, and always pull a trick that seemed like no one else was doing that
day. My memory takes me back really far. And he was, I'm thinking 12, when he was 12 years old. I can remember him skating with these, Mike Crabtree, some of these kids that were just out here on the sidewalk with these little ramps my dad built.
I knew his sister first, though, Christy. I went to camp, up in Visalia in the mountains. She was my counselor. She was awesome, too. So she's like, yeah, my little brother skates. Where do you live? Oh, right by Gunderson. And they live right down the street. She's like, you gotta come by and skate. I think the first day I met him, I saw him and Lance skating at Gunderson, and then they brought me back to this place in the back called the Pit. It's just this round, freaking scary little ledge. So we go back there, and I try one grind, and I fall, and I break my wrist. First try, so I jump in the car, and they take me to my mom's, and basically went straight to the hospital. I think he even came back that night, just to see, oh, you all right, and everything.
Well, Tim had his crew, It was like Todd Ferreira.
Scotty Greathouse. You'd always have a story about him.
Lance Delgart was part of their crew.
We grew up skating at the Scurbs.
was one of the first street spots that we localized. You know, it was a curb that was kind of ground down and waxed, and then there was another curb on the side that was two-sided, so you could do board slides. It was a place that we could go and meet our friends and skate.
Corey O'Brien and Gavin O'Brien and all the San Jose old school dudes to us at the time. We're skating the same spots.
That whole time in the early 80s, when skateboarding was pretty mellow, all the local guys were keeping the scene alive in San Jose, and I think that's what brought up the next generation of skaters, which turned into a bunch of street skaters.
Hey, my name's Tim Brauch. I'm from San Jose, California, and I'm 23 years old. I've lived in San Jose my whole life, and pretty much my whole life's been involved around skateboarding.
Whatever was going on in San Jose, I think both me and Tim were extremely influenced by it.
Jason Adams was glued to the hip with Tim.
Me and Tim were just hanging out every day. We lived together. We skated on the same skateboard brand together. It was just every day it was me and Tim. We woke up, went and got coffee and donuts at 7-Eleven. We went back, listened to music. We went skating. We came home, we ate dinner, we drank beer. Tim would kick my ass every night.
I've watched a lot of video in the last couple of years of he and Jason out every day working on tricks. And I mean by the hour, trick, attempt after attempt. Jason would try, Tim would try. I think the thing that Jason did mostly for Tim was to keep the bar very high.
I would say probably Salman Agha. I think Salman had a big influence on Tim and his skating, and just that Salman was such a progressive skater at the time that Tim kind of caught on to that.
I think he was more of a role model for me than I was for him, you know? I just feel like he was on a whole nother level. Like when I think back of it, I think of like, you know, what an awesome person. He was the kind of person that really took the time to engage people.
Steve Caballero was probably one of his biggest influences.
Tim looked up to Cab. Tim definitely had a lot of San Jose pride, and Cab was from San Jose, and I really think he took Tim under his wing when Tim was really pretty young.
I just started seeing him at local demos, and just was very attracted to Tim immediately because of his positive energy.
He went to a skate camp at Santa Clara University, and there was John Cardiel was the traveling pro or the visiting pro, and he was really impressed by his skating. And he was another fast skater, so I really liked him as well.
I feel like he was really a true original to like himself. Like he was had his own thing he was always into, regardless if it was popular or how other people talked about it or what they thought of him.
Tim's favorite hobbies, well, he liked to skate, he liked to fish, he liked to go four-wheeling. He liked to birdwatch. He was into birdwatching. You'd be driving down the road and he'd spot some bird in the creek. It's like, oh, there's a snowy white egret, check it out. You're like, what? You look over and there's some bird all, you're like, whoa, cool.
Tim absolutely loved music. It was a huge part of his life. The Muffs, the Super Suckers, Bad Religion.
Hanging out with his family, even though that's not a hobby, like for him, you know, his dad and his mom and his family were just so amazing.
One of Tim's favorite passions was his artwork. You can kind of compare it to a writer. Drawing his stories, he drew everybody that we met and also was able to kind of convey his feelings about that moment in time through his art.
He was so open-minded. You know, a lot of skaters afraid to do anything outside of skateboarding. He'd be perceived as uncool, perhaps, you know. And
he was into snowboarding. If you were a skater, it was just like one of those things, like maybe he didn't tell anybody about it if you were into it, and he was just so open about it.
Every session with Tim was really special because of how he approached the session.
Let's go. That was his attitude towards skateboarding. There's guys that thought about what they're doing a lot and what they were gonna do, and then there's Tim who just went and did it.
He did it very well. It flowed all over the place. And he would hit every nook and cranny. Any bump he could pump, he would pump it. You know, every corner he could carve, he would carve it.
Tim's skating was just like his life, you know what I mean? It just looked fun when he skated. He was unpredictable, definitely. Just like that Energizer bunny, and he just kept going and going, and if he didn't want to stop, he wouldn't, even if he was going to bail.
Tim Brauch is what I would always say. He would start out trying a specific trick, and regardless of how it went, and if it changed into something else, he would just go with it and pull it anyway.
I'd say he's a superhero, man. I haven't seen anyone skate like that.
He was a well-rounded skater. He could skate street. He could skate parks, transitions, pools.
We were skating a ramp, and he was doing his thing on the coping, bouncing around and jumping and blunting and disastering all at the same time, basically. Reeves was like, he's like a jumping beam.
Because he just go at it, you know, jumping beam. Bam, 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 bam. Nobody could skate like that, man. Nobody. Even to this day, people can't skate like that.
His skate style was just interesting. He tried to pack as many things into whatever he was gonna do. If I'm gonna cruise through a park, I'll hit all the trannies and do tricks at the top. He was trying to fit things in the bottom. If there was a little lump, he'd ollie off of it. He just saw things differently.
Very free.
Flowing.
Fast, fast, fast.
Fast.
It was explosive.
Just raw, like he would just attack stuff.
Tim had like a full-on barging skate style, just straight ahead, just barreling, you know, just like holding on.
Full of energy, you know what I mean? Just
never sketchy.
Never.
Always on it.
Always making it.
It wouldn't even look sketchy when he was first trying something.
No. No, like he knew it all the time.
His frontside ollies were always beautiful.
One of the most blunted guys I've ever seen. He could do any blunt variation out there.
They were difficult, but they weren't difficult for him.
I've never even seen so many blunts. I do a blunt every day that I skate, and that's like one of my favorite tricks because of him.
And Tim is the type of guy that it didn't matter where you were. Well, we're skating, it could be a curb. Who cares? Skate it and have fun.
Tim did not concern himself with the trick of the month. It was all about feeling and looking amazing. He could go big, and he did shock and amaze. It was in a different way. It was because of his energy.
To enjoy skateboarding to its fullest, you have to have that kind of attitude. Why narrow down your chances of having fun? You know, and I think Tim got it at an early age.
I remember Don Brown coming up to me, marketing director of Etnies, one of the founders. You know, he's like, Tim's one of the last honest skaters, isn't he? That's what he asked me. And I was like, yeah, he is. He's pure.
You could
tell that he just loved what he was doing, and I think that's what I loved about Tim. Is at the end of the day, it's got to be about fun, and Tim represented that fun that skateboarding is all about.
He actually got me to learn so much about photography. I had someone I could actually document. That's very important. He was so aggressive and powerful with everything. Like, you see him skate a mini ramp and you'd just be blown away. Like, how is he still going right now? Like at Jim's Jam, like just charging 100%.
Having Jai and Lance Delgart in San Jose was a huge benefit to everyone.
This is one of the first photos I ever took. Tim backside ollie at a pullover off Monterey Highway.
They're both artists. Jai knew how to shoot killer photos. He knew how to do it different angles. Jai was Tim's project, and Tim was Jai's project.
I couldn't push him on a skateboard, but he always pushed me with like photos. He'd always like, hey, I have this spot, I have this idea. There was a shot on Santa Mots where we set up this jump ramp, he's ollieing, there's cars going by, and he's just like a little silhouette on this overpass. We had to set that up. We didn't really have cell phones then, so we just have to like kind of wave and kind of judge like, all right, we're coming that way. It was so rad to see someone like him progress and travel and actually make money skating.
Tim Brauch took second place, and he did so flying around this bowl with speed, power, and aggression. The adrenaline was pumping every time Tim dropped into the bowl.
He turned pro before he even graduated from high school, so he never really needed to go get a job to support himself. Skating paid his way.
Sessions was his main one, really, because he was getting work study for that.
The first time that I met Tim, or first time I remember seeing Tim, was we were doing a skateboard demo at a church right by Sessions. It was literally a block away. At that time, it was just some kids skating that, hey, can I skate, the ramps while the demo's going on? Sure, just jump in there and skate.
And everybody was there, like Solomon, Tim, the kid, Jason. And Tim was just like obviously destroying the place. And that was kind of the day when it started clicking for him. Like, he always knew he was good at it, but he didn't realize how proficient he was.
Everybody was asking, who is this guy? Who's his sponsor? He didn't have one.
And right then, we asked him, hey, do you want to write for Sessions Skateboard Shop?
The next level, there it was, right in front of him.
Sessions was a shop where back then in the 80s, a lot of skaters hung out, a lot of pro skaters represented the shop.
Right when Tim's career was blossoming, he rode for the shop and also worked there.
He worked there for about 2 to 3 years. He would come and go because he would travel, he would do photo shoots, he would do contests, so we had a very flexible schedule, but he was always there.
Right from the bat, it was like I knew him already. Instant friends, man.
Aaron Arno and Joel really kind of helped him along.
It doesn't matter whatever else he's doing, he's still on his skate. And that's what I got out of it. Back that. Something that I liked that he loved, that was even better.
Tim was like that model for what a professional skateboarder should be.
I wanted to start a clothing brand, and I thought of Solomon Agah and Tim Brauch.
That's when ST Clothing came to life.
Tim and I were brainstorming when we thought of ST, E-S-T-E. Kind of wanted a Mexican, Spanish-sounding name.
Joel's motivation was to help Tim and I set ourselves up in business so that when we were done skating or we decided we didn't want to, compete or whatever, that we would have something to fall back on.
Tim was extremely instrumental in a lot of the designs. We were just kind of ahead of our game.
Tim had multiple sponsors in his career, and of course he started out as a sponsored am on New Deal.
I know that his parts in those New Deal videos really meant a lot to him.
To ride for New Deal was a really big deal, even though they kind of left him behind in the end. I just remember when he rode for SMA. It seemed like a really super happy time for him, going on a trip with Ron Whaley and Israel and Thomas Campbell and those guys.
At that point, the Tim, Ron, Israel team for SMA, then to Santa Cruz, was just like one of the ultimate skate everything teams of that time.
It was a good time because we're kind of just struggling, scraping by.
was definitely part of the resurgence of Santa Cruz. Tim had came on the team along with whilel and Israel, kind of brought back the classic dot and just the look that was so familiar with most people in Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz skateboards, and what's Tim Brauch? He stood for it and believed in that dot and carried that dot.
So Tim, with his 120% energy, totally helped Santa Cruz because he raised the bar.
He said, I won! I won the World Cup! I won $50,000, Mom! I was like, what? $15,000? That was big money then. That was a lot of money.
Tim had been skating for a long time competitively, and he had always, strived to win a contest. And so the Vans Triple Crown was especially meaningful to him. The people that he got to skate against were just some of the most awesome skateboarders.
I remember just looking at Tim and watching his energy and the things he was doing. I was just like, man, he's going to be tough to beat. That's the effect he had on you, is he made you skate better than you really wanted to.
Everybody was stoked he won, because everybody knows that he wasn't out there to show anybody up. He didn't do any tricks to go out there and win the contest. He did the tricks he loved to do. Maybe right before that was when I did hear some of his sponsors questioning whether if he was marketable or he was like who they wanted to focus on. But I think after he won that contest, that shut up a lot of people.
Tim was like before his time, to where skateboarding in the past was really trendy, and if you didn't fit into a little category, you were kind of axed out no matter how good you were. Tim never fit into any category, you know what I mean? He would go skate the street contest, run around like a whirlwind, inverts, kickflip, do everything. And he would jam so he could fit like twice as many tricks in a run than everyone else. And they had that big handrail, it was big at the time, and it had no run up, and he could grind it every time. It was so different, he kind of got like lost sometimes. And that day, luckily, it worked out for him, you know what I mean? He was killing it though.
He tried so hard, so often, and finally put it all together and walked away on top. I just remember thinking this was meant to be.
All right, how about a few words, Steve? This was incredible. What a great final that was. Frost just came out of nowhere and just everyone was ready to.
When he actually won the contest, he didn't even know. We were like, Tim, they're telling you won. I think you won this thing. And he was like, no, he couldn't believe it. I don't think he realized it until they were handing him the check, and it was probably one of the happiest moments of his life. He was so ecstatic about it. He couldn't stop grinning the whole night. He was almost embarrassed how happy he was.
That one was for you, Christy, because you showed up tonight.
Most people would go and just celebrate, have a good meal, relax. He went and skated in another pool.
He was so amped up. I don't know whose house we're at, but he was in a bowl and he was going around so fast. I swear it was like a trail, it was like a cartoon. People were like, who's in that? Who is that guy in there? And he just kept going and going.
Who does that? No, I mean, seriously, no one does that.
There were so many times when we would be just exhausted from the day before.
Demo was rocking. Bent legs. All kinds of stuff going on. But day two, definite for us.
Day two is gonna be good. Oh no, day three. No,
we're on day three. Yeah. Actually, we're on day three now. Day three, Arby's, 5:20 in the morning.
The next day would just be like, we're taking today off, we're not skating today. And then we'd get somewhere and there'd be something skatable, and all of a sudden he'd get on there and start going towards it. And I'd be like, dude, I thought you said we weren't gonna skate today, and if you're gonna skate, well, I have to skate. And then so Israel has to skate, and then we would just always, it was kind of always trying to keep up with him, and yet it wasn't a competition thing, and it was just like, you'd see him having such a good time, you'd be like, why can't I do that? He taught me how to act as a pro skater when you're in places where people are hosting you.
You like to talk to people and, stoke them out, like say, oh, that was sick, he's just real friendly with everybody, just real kind, real cool dude.
Tim wrote a poem when he was in high school, and one of the lines I remember is, you know, let someone in line in front of you. Some of the things that are just general, simple things that we forget to do sometimes. Be nice to people, makes everyone happy.
I'd like to thank all the kids for supporting us and giving me the compliments when we're out there traveling and stuff.
He had a real good spectrum of all the people around. He didn't just see them as little, you know, people walking down the street. He'd eye out little kids in the corner and go hang out with them.
Tim was one of the biggest role models out there, I think. You've got levels of skateboarders like the superstars, you know, these huge, you know, names. Tim was obviously a big name, but the difference with Tim is he was so personable and would engage with the kids.
There'd be other guys, you know, of that era that wouldn't give the kids a time of day. There'd be the contest going on over here, and he'd just be skating for fun over here and see some kid struggling, and he'd just help him out, you know, and like try to teach him something. And then all of a sudden was just this instant big brother to this kid.
It was never something he had to do. It was always something he liked to do. He just figured it out that, you know, these kids were an asset in a way.
He was great. He'd give them boards, he'd give them shirts. San Jose, there's been so many great skateboarders that come out, and Tim was one of the most influential.
I mean, you couldn't ask for a better role model.
Right there, man. That's what it's all about. Tim Brauch, Santa Cruz.
The reason we like people is because of how they make us feel about ourselves, and I think that's a testament. Tim made everyone around him feel good about themselves.
So his main motivation was helping other people out through different ways that he probably didn't know he was helping them out, just by skating and doing what he did and showing other people how you treat people.
Tim stands for best that a human being can be.
He lived definitely for where we were right then and there. A lot of anticipation and like potential for wherever we're gonna go. It's like he would hype it up.
Not just for himself, but for pretty much everyone around him. One of the things that the memory of Tim does for me is it says, Solomon, get off your ass and go do what you have in your mind to do. If you were burnt or tired or whatever, Tim was there to like say no. And he didn't have to say anything. It's just because of what he was doing.
Yeah.
You know, he always brought out the best in people, and he had so much integrity, had so much compassion, and whoever he was with, he would hype them up and get them going.
He was so happy and just running through life, just flourishing.
He stood for life and how to do it every day.
Tim inspired me just to be positive all the time and to don't let the little things get you down. Always live life to the fullest all the time, but in a positive way. You can live life to the fullest, not in a positive way, and that's what I think Tim had taught me.
So I just remember Tim coming into places that I might be DJing at, where there might not be such a good vibe, and him just by him being there, making things cool. Like somebody like open up the roof and let some sunshine in, you know?
Tim was like just the beacon of hope when everybody was kind of bummed, session was kind of crowded or something was not happening right with skateboarding at the time. He just had that infectious energy that could lift people up.
You know, and Tim was one of those guys that made that impact as far as making skateboarding look fun for people to do and be enjoyable around. And that's more important, I would say, than actual skill level, you know, because there's a lot of guys out there that are really good. It's like, you know what, I don't really care how good you are, because your personality sucks. He's shown that love and passion for skateboarding through his skateboarding and through his actions and how he presented himself to the world.
It really rubbed off on people, and he really made friends.
Every single time that I think of Tim, I think of him smiling. If that thought of him comes in through your head, like, it's gonna make your day better.
He's kind of like the perfect person, to be honest. We all just keep fumbling and trying to figure it out, and Tim just had it wired, and it was like, okay, you're on to the next. You passed this level, go.
He always kind of took things into his own hands. He would plan trips, and he'd always have his camera on him. Just charge mode. And then the next morning at 7, he would be up with a shot of espresso in your face, like,
Yeah, let's go do that. You know?
all right, dude, like I'm not on that level with you, but I'm with you, you know, like let's roll.
Dude, it's on, you know, let's go. On the flip side, it was hard because the dude could party like Motley Crue and then wake up the next morning early with a smile on his face and ripping. Well, I'm like huddled in a ball in the corner of the hotel room wanting to die because I did the same thing that he did the night before and I can't even deal with it. I would just feed off of it. I would just steal it from him.
You never tried to keep up with him because it wasn't possible. And Tim's just like bing, 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 just out the door, at the ramp, at the park, street skating.
Every night, wherever we went, it was raging all the time. It was just a good, positive time.
He would just show up places and just attack them. He would just start doing heavy stuff just right off the bat.
Tim was in every moment, he was just in it and just in it to make it the best time ever.
People would recognize us because we were in a magazine or we had some notoriety in skating, but when you went with somewhere with Tim, it's like he knew someone and he had connected with them.
I go to Australia, dude's got a ST Bird BMC tattoo, and they just hung out with him for a night.
The BMC, I first heard about the BMC through Tim. I was like, what the hell is a BMC?
The meaning of it is beautiful men inside and out coming together for the pure sake of joy, drinking, friends, fun, skateboarding.
And that really started from a trip that Lance Delgart, Tim, Jason Adams, and I took together to Vegas. And it was started simply from a comment that I made in the car about Sean Connery being a beautiful man. And that was the birth of the BMC.
Damn, Sean Connery is a beautiful man. He's really beautiful. Well, you're a beautiful man.
No, you're beautiful.
Well, you're beautiful.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you are.
No, you're beautiful.
And those guys took it from there. And the Beautiful Men's Club became like the worldwide sort of like society. You know, I think Jason's like the president.
Oh, we started this club, it's the BMC, and let's drink. And it's like, okay. And it's like, you know, somehow we made up a little salute, and it was like, all of a sudden everyone's doing it, and everyone's getting smashed and wearing suits, and it was pretty hot.
Tim, he's a beautiful dude. And, you know, he had a beautiful girlfriend at the time. He had a couple beautiful people around him, and I understood the BMC. You know, once I partied with those guys, I understood what they were about.
Having hot dog cookouts with no chicks allowed.
Salami shots?
Yeah, salami shots, sausage parties with like bratwurst and stuff like that, of course.
It was a normal thing to go on a Saturday afternoon to J.G. Rogers' house and see them all wasted and having a keg and shaving mohawks.
And so just kind of like sprawled in San Jose and be like, you gotta be in the club. It's a beautiful men's club. They'd be like, yeah, you know.
Getting suited up and going, all right, we're doing this. Let's get on bikes, let's wear suits. Ow!
Where we went, BMC, like San Jose, should just be called BMC.
Obviously no rules for entry.
This is insane, you know what I mean? Now there's like New York City BMC, there's Japan BMC.
No, that's true. Japan is huge, and those guys still carry the torch, you know, maybe even stronger than anywhere else in the world.
They're so all about it, but they feel like they have this thing where they feel like they're not worthy, and so they call themselves the amateur BMC. So all their BMC logos on their shirts have a little amateur thing right above it. And those guys are far from amateur.
All over the world, and people are like, I hung out with Tim. And they got like a tattoo, you know? I'm like, holy shit. This is insane.
Well, he could have been its mascot, for crying out loud, you know? He was probably one of the most handsome skaters, I guess, of all time.
He was the captain.
As a recruiter, he would go and party with people and be like, you're in the BMC. Yeah, you know? And
yeah. He was just like And we gave the salute, and he's all, you know, you're in the BMC, and I was just like, cool, man. Like
guys like Brian Patch and Chris Markovich that weren't from San Jose, but you know, all met and traveled and hung out with Tim and got inducted. And I think one of the reasons Tim was such a proponent of the BMC was because he was so down to let somebody know they were a good person. And coming from Tim, it's about as good of a compliment as you can get from anybody.
Cheers to the BMC. Tim Brauch. Life and times.
Tim had an opportunity to go to Brazil, which was one of the more unusual places that he got to go early on. When they got off this airplane, he was bombarded by a bunch of people that were, you know, they're treating him like rock stars. They were chasing him, and they had to run and hide behind some corner when they got out of the airport because they were like chasing him, trying to rip off pieces of their shirts.
Oh yeah, we went to Brazil the first year of the World Cup tour in Brazil, and that was really fun. You know, like skating some crazy concrete parks. The contest was pretty crazy, but we had a great time. You know, just being in Brazil, traveling, skating with our friends, and a lot of good people there. I remember Donnie Barley was on that trip.
Dude, going anywhere with Tim was a blast. I got stuff of the last trip I went on with him. It was just 4 buddies wanting to go on a road trip for no other reason than go on a road trip. Me, Chet, Jai, Tim.
Our term for that trip was, who's your daddy?
Someone was like trying to trick. Who's your daddy? Come on, who's your daddy?
Who's your daddy?
It's just like fun from beginning to, we went to the Nude Bowl.
Oh, we went to the Nude Bowl. See, you gotta remind me, man, because I hit my head a couple times. Like always, Tim was just pop, 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 jumping around, just tearing things to pieces, you know?
Probably the best time was just hanging out in Prescott, Arizona, which is just a little podunk town in Arizona, you know what I mean? We went to the Grand Canyon, yep. I think we might have gone to Vegas too. Obviously we did, yeah. Oh, dude, oh yeah, Vegas. He was ripping that trip too, like always. We're all haggard, partied out. He's just ripping. Ripping. It's all kind of coming back to me now. It was an epic trip. That was rad. That was the last trip I went on with him.
So I remember the morning it happened. I got the phone call from my buddy, and he said, yeah, Beans passed away. I'm like, what? So Beans died. His heart failed.
When I met Tim, he had told me that he had a congenital heart disease, and it was called Wolff Parkinson's White. You know, it kind of freaked me out when he told me about it because, you know, it's a heart disease, and so you never know what will happen. It's very rare, and most babies are never diagnosed with it, yet Tim was diagnosed right away. He was never that worried about it. The doctors were concerned as he was growing up that he, you know, would have trouble doing anything athletic.
When it was time for him to be competitive, to be in sports, he was tested and given a full go-ahead. They couldn't wear him out, to be honest with you.
Then he turned into a pro skateboarder and was doing, you know, pushing himself 8 hours a day, so it didn't seem like it was going to be an issue for him. They did tell him that maybe when he was 40 or 50 that he would have some effects from it. Neither of us were really worried about it. It seemed so far away to both of us to be concerned.
So it was really, you know, came as a tremendous shock to us to have him die of sudden cardiac arrest.
I was absolutely blown away because I had seen him earlier that day. He's kind of like, hey, how's it going? Say hi. And then the next day, just, you heard the news, Tim died yesterday.
His last day we skated so long, 'cause it was like we were 14 skating, like, but we had cars, you know, so we weren't skating across town, we were just skating spots. And Tim, there was this flat rail off of 2 stairs, and it was probably like, you know, it's real skinny, and it was, you know, right when you get off the stairs, it was like 10 feet long.
I was there. I filmed the guy's last trick. The last trick he did 50-50 kickflip out. And I remember Tim's eyes and his smile to this day. Like, it puts chills. I got chills right now just thinking about how stoked he was, dude.
You know, it's one of the things that I can hold on to and just be like, his last day, it was a glorious day. It was awesome.
Dude, this is how I left him. All right, he was supposed to meet us out later that night. I'm like, all right, till later. He's like, tonight. And that was the last. It's been kind of cool talking because I've kind of put it all out of my mind, you know? I had crazy dreams for years and years after. Like, I was almost mad at him for dying, you know?
I didn't know how to react. It wasn't real. It really made me see, you know, wow, like, we're just here for a little while.
Sure. You know, a lot of people on this world, and there's a few that I want to do stuff with, you know, and he was one of them. He was a big part of my life, but it was like I lost it.
It was such a big hit when he died, like huge.
In a way, I feel that Tim has never left us. I mean, obviously, he's left our physical world, but his spiritual being is so much a part of his life, and he left us so much.
Changed my life immensely. I learned from him, took on a new career of something that I love to do instead of an income, knowing that that's what Tim did all his life, and now that's what I'm trying to do.
In the end, it ended up really being inspiring. Just this overwhelming want to just explore and expand my life and just go nuts.
It's about how we touch other people's lives and what we can do while we're here on this planet to make a difference.
I got the tattoo. The bird for life, fool.
When I got this tattoo, it says solid gold, and I kind of put it in my arm where I play guitar or bass, you know, when I'm skating or just doing anything, driving. I just try to be my best.
You know, he's got like a total legacy.
The annual contest that they hold for Tim is just a great tribute.
A lot of that credit goes to Cindy Busenhart, the partner here at Session. She's the one that started the very first Tim Brauch contest, which was in a little parking lot close to the police department here in Scotts Valley, which sounds kind of funny. And it's, you know, grown into the 10th annual that's coming up this year.
What's really great about it is it's about kids. He really appreciated kids supporting him in his career and wanted to give back to them as much as he can, and the contests certainly do that.
Many of these kids don't know who Tim was, and so they're hearing about him through this contest, so it's this whole new generation of kids. They're learning about a skater that, not kind of the underground skater that maybe, you know, you have a bad image of, but somebody that it's okay for their kid to look up to and to emulate.
It's about immortalizing Tim's legacy in skateboarding. It should be like a national skate holiday.
Having our son's artifacts in the Smithsonian is just an incredible honor. It came about because our daughter Christy decided Tim belonged in the Smithsonian.
She felt that there was a place, that there needed to be a hero for skateboarding, and she felt that it was Tim.
And with just total faith that it was going to happen, she called the Smithsonian, you know, talked to people at the Smithsonian until she found someone who said, yes, that's a good idea.
He has become an icon in many people's eyes. It means a lot to our family and the people that loved him, that he is his belongings, and the story is kind of like kept in time with the national treasures. And it's something very special that we all appreciate very much. But I do think Tim would just say, this is crazy. Like, how did this happen?
Also to actually have him have a place in an exhibit touring the United States along with Michael Jordan and Muhammad Ali is just beyond a concept that Tim can't even imagine.
The category that they put Tim in was more than sports champion, and I think that in itself is an honor because Tim was obviously a great athlete, we all know that, but it was the fact that he was so well respected and so well liked.
Probably one of the raddest guys ever, you know, to be in a museum that gnarly, you know, means a lot, you know, and it's the right guy.
Going there and being treated, first of all, like a celebrity, we thought, oh, this is what Tim's life was like, you know, getting the royal treatment. And then just going back several times while we were there, just sitting and watching people go up and looking and reading about Tim's life. And just thinking, wow, one more person knows about Tim. Multiply that across the country. So many people are going to learn about Tim and what he stood for.
Never Forget Jam is the most true thing to the spirit of Tim and to everybody else that, you know, we've lost that are in skateboarding.
Jam just came about after he died. Just that everyone came together. We all needed some release. We were all really upset and emotional at the time, and we just basically made it happen at Palo Alto. And
getting everyone together and having a good time.
Everybody shared that common bond of knowing Tim and thought it was great. I recall the feeling, the camaraderie, the fun, the energy that Tim had.
I think what amazed me about that was how many people were there.
The best part is, you know, bringing everyone together. There's a lot of times when you're in there and narrowly escape a collision.
And there's people barging like Tim would have barged. Of people going every which way but loose, and they were charging for Tim.
Tim lived each day as if it was the best day. Every day trying to wake up and make today a better day than it was yesterday. I try and do that myself.
I think he'll be remembered for his spirit, his persona, for who he was.
I mean, he's still here, you know, in memories, and those memories, those photos will never go away.
When you get that glimpse of him, or you think his name, or you just think of him, it makes you smile, it makes you happy.
Tim, looks like you got a shorty on you. Oh, yeah, indeed.
All right, Tim. That's it. That one's for you.
Although this mom doesn't drink.
BMC salute. It's the beans.
Yes, Tim.
Tim Brauch will remember to live each day like you did. The smile on your face.
Tim, this is for you, man. Love you.
One finger? One finger salute?
We'll remember to live each day like you did. Tim Brauch will remember to live each day like you did.
Konnichiwa.
On your face, your style and your grace.
Beans, baby, beans. For life, fool. Beans, if you get to watch this, buddy, I'm still out here. I miss you every day. If you can call me, please call me. I'd be so sick.